Welcome to Sugar Mama's Fireplay, the podcast where we ignite your financial independence, fuel your early retirement goals and dreams, and empower you to build long-term sustainable financial freedom for yourself and loved ones. I am your host, financial planner, Canna Campbell, and I'm a passionate advocate for true, authentic financial freedom and independence. Whether you're just starting out on your financial journey or you're refining your existing financial strategy, this is the podcast that will inspire you, educate you, and guide you towards a life of choice, security, and abundance. So let's get started. So today's episode is a big one. I'm sharing a really important financial, non-negotiable rule for retirement. I call this my sleep well strategy, and I will talk about this in a lot more detail in my book, Mindful Money, which of course I will go and link in the podcast notes for you. But honestly, if there is one piece of advice that I want every single retiree or future retiree to listen to understand, and to embrace, it is this. Because yes, money does matter, but also so does your peace of mind, your ability to get a really good quality night's sleep, and your confidence in knowing that no matter what the share market does, your lifestyle, your retirement income, your independence are not under threat ever. So today, I'm going to be breaking it all down for you. Exactly what the Sleep Well strategy is, that is my Sleep Well strategy, why it is so incredibly important to you, and how to put this into practice in a realistic, practical way. And in fact, how this really simple shift and addition to your financial strategy could actually improve your long-term retirement income, not just protect it. All right, first up, what exactly is this Sleep Well strategy of mine? Okay, let's go to the actual core idea of this. So the Sleep Well strategy is simply this. Keep up to 2 years worth of your living expenses in cash, completely separate from your emergency fund. This is not emergency money, it is completely separate. And that essentially is it. So very, very simple. But this is a special separate buffer that exists purely to protect you from ever having to sell your investments, like your share portfolio, your superannuation pension fund, when markets are down. They've had their crash, they've had their correction, and people are panicking. Now you might be thinking, all right, okay, Canna, 2 years in cash, that is 2 years worth of living expenses in cash. And that's a lot of money to me. And yes, I'm not going to deny that. It is. But it's not actually a cushion. It is a safety net for you and your well-being. Now, there is one detailed reason as to why I recommend this. You see, when there is a market crash or a correction or a pullback or a panic, which inevitably there will be, and there are obviously happening right now, and there are going to be plenty more in the future, you're never put into a position where you need to panic. You never have to necessarily sell or be forced to sell. You never have to touch your long-term investments and risk having to cut off your passive income supply through those juicy, fat, tax-effective dividend income stream. You see, by having this in place, you have the time, you have the choice, you have the luxury to be able to wait it out, sit on your hands, and let the market recover, which history shows it does. And we'll keep talking about this. So what exactly is so wrong with selling during a market crash? Well, it is probably one of the worst things you could possibly do, and 9 times out of 10 comes with massive regret. So let's talk about what actually happens during market downturns. Now, this is when people's emotions get out of hand. They have these knee-jerk reactions and they start acting in an irrational way. It's the herd mentality. And the media obviously only adds fuel to this fire with these, dramatic headlines that sometimes aren't quite accurate or even correct. And because of that, people panic. They look at their investment portfolio value, the account balance or the portfolio value. And this includes investments and, of course, your superannuation, because that is another form of an investment portfolio. And in particular, retirees, when they do this, they think, oh no, and they start to feel anxious and nauseous, and their head starts spinning, and they don't know what to do, and they sometimes even end up going to the wrong people for advice. And they think, oh my gosh, I'm losing money. I better sell now immediately, and I can just cut my losses before it gets any worse. And you think, God, I mean, it's one day it's up, one day it's down, one day it's up, it's down, down, down. What do I do? And I just can't live a life that feels so unstable and filled with volatility. And they sell. But here's the thing. You haven't actually lost anything unless you sell. It's just a paper loss. It's not actually happened in reality. It hasn't been crystallized yet. And the thing you need to remember is the price of your portfolio does not equal the value. If I have $1 million share portfolio and it's paying me, say, $50,000 a year, and it's, there's a market pullback and it's worth, say, $800,000. Does that mean it's worth $800,000 if it's still paying me $50,000 a year? Not necessarily. Remember, the share market is just a marketplace for people to go and exchange things for what they value at that point in time. It is never reflective of the value. Kind of like that analogy where I talk about a diamond that you might find in the street, and you take it to find out what it's worth. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone's offering you, say, $10,000 for that diamond, even though it's probably worth about $20,000. It doesn't mean that it is worth necessarily $10,000 if it's a really good quality diamond. It's just particular value at that point in time is just reflective as to what someone values it at. So please always remember, the share price does not necessarily equal or reflect the value whatsoever, especially when you think about those dividends that it gives you. Now, what we do know from decades of market data is this: most markets recover. It is just a matter of time. In fact, historically, most major share market crashes usually recover within about 18 months. So by keeping 2 years worth of expenses in cash, away from your emergency money, completely separate, say in an online savings account, so you're earning some interest as well, you're giving yourself that time. Time to wait it out, time to breathe, time to sleep at night, knowing you don't need to touch a single share because you can actually live off your sleep well cash if you need to. Now, if I'm saying, okay, it typically takes about 18 months for the market to recover, why am I recommending that you have 2 years worth of living expenses set aside? Well, 1 year might cover you in a mild downturn, but 2 years gives you a nice buffer. And of course, this is based on historical recovery periods and allows for that extra 6-month margin of safety for you. Think of it like this. If most market crashes recover within 18 months and your 2-year sleep well strategy, that is your cash buffer, buys you time, peace of mind, without forcing you into a restrictive decision, isn't that fantastic? Isn't that wise? Isn't that an intelligent thing to do? It's like the, financial equivalent of a weighted blanket. It helps you sleep well, think clearly, and of course, stay the course. And because of those things, you also have a lot more energy to really enjoy living your life and making the most of your retirement, all the fruits of your hard work in the lead up to retirement. So what happens if you do use that money? Now, of course, you need to replace it. If you do end up dipping into your sleep well account, even for a short period of time, you've got to replace it. And that is, of course, once things start to stabilize again and you're in that particular situation. The sooner you start, obviously, the better. Your sleep well strategy is not a one-time setup. It's actually a living, breathing part of your overall financial strategy. And it's like an insurance against forced selling. And you don't necessarily need to rebuild it overnight. There's no panic to restock it. Just make sure you make it a priority when it comes to looking at your income, your portfolio is stabilized and you're getting those dividends back in your pocket again. And a great strategy is to have a regular automatic savings plan within your budget so that you are making inroads in rebuilding that money should you need to. Now, this is the magic of this sleep well strategy, in that it actually can enhance your financial situation. I'm going to talk about this in more detail, so please bear with. And this is really important when you think about dividends, fully franked dividends, with those wonderful tax-effective benefits, reinvesting, and long-term capital growth and income. So, as I said, this is the exciting part of the strategy and how we can improve your financial income, your retirement income, over the long run. So let me explain. Now, because you don't actually have to sell anything during a market crash because of this sleep well strategy, instead you're relying off your cash buffer. It allows you to do something very powerful, and that is, with your investments, reinvest your dividends. So say your portfolio is still generating income even in a downturn. And for the record, most industrial companies, the supermarkets, the banks, the retail businesses, pretty much anything that provides a product or a service, typically do maintain their dividends. Yes, at times they may need to cut the dividends, but most companies do maintain some form of dividends, which is why it's so important to have a diversified share portfolio. So instead of actually drawing down those dividends for your living expenses, you can actually reinvest them because you're living off the cash supply, that savings account. Instead of taking those dividends to normally spend them like you previously would, you actually use them to buy more shares in that company during that downturn, which means ultimately you're buying shares that are actually temporarily on sale. They're even better value for money. You're buying the same income stream, but you're actually buying it now at a discount. You're using your dividends now to actually build your wealth and build your long-term growing passive income stream. So you're actually accumulating more units, more shares in these high quality companies or ETFs, or my preferred option is listed investment companies at much lower prices, which, as I've explained, in turns helps you generate more dividends for your future. But obviously, over time, that can significantly increase your retirement income and help your money last so much longer. In fact, it can actually help build your wealth if you're someone who's actually able to live off less than what you earn in dividends, because you're adding obviously an element of reinvesting on top of taking out that income. So this is actually not about just protecting your lifestyle, but actually potentially, if you're in a situation where you can, improve it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds really smart. This sounds really wise, but why can't I just maybe keep living off those dividends if the companies are still paying them and use that cash to buy more during these particular downturns? Yes, you most certainly can. Obviously, it comes down to personal choice, and you need to obviously get professional advice before you start making any decisions, and you want to make sure that your portfolio is diversified. But yes, this essentially works in exactly the same way. If you're in a position where you continue on living off the dividends without a problem and you've got this 2-year sleep well strategy, you can use that. But obviously be careful not to use all of that money necessarily in one big hit. You might want to look at using a dollar cost averaging strategy where you will invest, say, of that money, $10,000 per month to buy more shares, or perhaps in chunks of, say, every quarter, depending on what is going on, the market, and obviously professional advice. But it does actually allow you to also have more control than, say, an automatic dividend reinvestment plan. The point is, it gives you that security in never being forced to sell anything within your portfolio and never be in a position where you actually have to cut off your financial freedom, your financial independence, your passive income supply. So let's be clear now about what your sleep well strategy is definitely not. Now, it is obviously not an emergency money fund. This sleep well strategy is completely separate from your emergency money fund. When obviously life throws you those curveballs, which no one is immune from, and they are sometimes inevitable. It's not about being overly conservative or trying to avoid investing. This strategy only works if you're investing and you're planning to stay ahead. It is most definitely not a set and forget strategy. You need to review your sleep well fund at least once or twice a year, making sure that it actually still covers your true living expenses. And of course, that is 2 years worth of true living expenses. So if you have a change in lifestyle, you may need to assess or perhaps even reduce that particular money. Now, who is this strategy directed to? Who am I really talking to in this particular episode? Obviously, everybody should know about this so that you can prepare for it and ideally, plan in advance for it. But in particular, this is the people that need to be listening to us and thinking about this and hopefully applying this are retirees. Retirees who are drawing an income from their superannuation or their pension fund or share portfolio already. And of course, pre-retirees. If you're in, thinking about retirement and approaching it in, say, the next 5 to 10 years, start building up your sleep well at night strategy. The sooner, the better, the easier. And of course, for anyone who wants true financial peace of mind during market volatility. I received a DM about a month ago from a lady saying, should I be selling my share portfolio with everything that's going on right now? And I knew this woman separately. I was like, well, go back to your goals. Your goals has always been, as far as I'm concerned, about buying and building passive income stream, and you're having your independence. You've made such amazing progress. Perhaps if you're feeling uncomfortable, start building up a cash reserve that you can use to potentially add more to this portfolio. And of course, this was under the premise of general advice. It was a sort of offline conversation between to friends as such. And I will even say myself, as I look at our financial strategy and our FIRE goal to build up $200,000 a year in passive income, when I can see that we're getting there, I will most definitely start building up our cash flow supply for this particular strategy. But I know that the sooner that I start, it's going to be easier. Even if it's only with $1,000 to kickstart that account is really valuable. Now, for anyone that is early on your FIRE journey and you like the sound of this strategy, you may want to find that sweet spot of balance between building your passive income and, of course, making sure that you have this separate savings built up the side, which is why it's important to get advice. But only you will know when you're ready to start building up this fund. But as a minimum, I would say 5 to 10 years, at least start something, even if it's only, as I said, $1,000 or $5,000. Always know what you're going to need so that you can mindfully plan and prepare in advance. It's one of those rare financial ideas that offers emotional and mathematical value in your life, and it reduces obviously the stress and also boosts your future income and wealth as well. Now, as I said, peace of mind is priceless. It really is. And that's why I call it a sleep well strategy, because it's exactly what it gives you. It's not flashy, it's not complicated, it's not sophisticated. It's really very simple and elementary. And at the end of the day, it's one of the smartest things you can do to protect your income, your investments, and of course, your sense of security, both now and well into retirement. So if you haven't already, take some time this week to think about and calculate what actually are your annual living expenses right now and what they might be in retirement, or what they are in retirement. Obviously, multiply it by 2, really easy, and consider how much you can actually put towards building up this fund to kickstart the process, what you can afford in your budget to slowly and start building up this as quickly as possible, and of course, where you're sitting, what income you've got coming in from your income stream for retirement, from shares, from investment properties, and so forth. And make sure that you put that money into a separate savings account away from your emergency money and nickname it my Sleep Well Strategy Savings Account. So whether you're 10 years away from retirement or already enjoying your financial freedom, this Sleep Well strategy is a gift to give yourself and your future self. Now, that is pretty much it for today's episode on Sugar Mama's Fire Play. I really hope that you're feeling inspired, empowered, and you are ready to take action on your financial journey to independence. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who could benefit from listening to this advice from me. A reminder, I'm a financial planner, not a finfluencer. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a show. I publish an episode every Monday morning at 5 a.m. I am here for you, holding your hand every single day. And I believe in you and what you're working on achieving. Now, in the meantime, please keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep that financial fire burning bright. I'll see you next time. Ciao for now.